So what pulley system would you get for your home gym if starting today? We had over 100 comments and quite a bit of variety of answers. I actually had like 10 responses on here that I was planning on reading off, but Flex Marks the Spot was just the best. And it summarized, I think, a lot of what people thought. So I will read that and then also highlight some other ones that were mentioned a few times at least. So Mark said, my top choice for a home gym would be the Rep Aries 2.0 or Prime Prodigy HLP if starting from scratch and want the best utility slash space option. If I'm already in the Rogue ecosystem, the twin stack trainers are the way to go. We kind of talked on reasons for the twin stack last week, and then also in the most recent roundtable. The dialed motion setup is the ultimate flexibility choice to work with anybody's existing setup. If you can just add one, so it's not quite as intense as adding an expensive setup. If you're working with the pre-existing Rhino, the surplus strength UPS still seems more practical than Rogue's Rhino rack trainer. This is something that I agreed with as well. Like the UPS seems like a quarter of the price of the Rogue setup for the same thing. So I think that's a great way to incorporate the Rhino into your rack as well. Otherwise, just get dedicated machines if you have the space budget. These all-in-one trainers are cool for space saving, but you're always going to have things to work around. And then a few other people mentioned, or just a few other companies that were mentioned. I would say Rogue and Rep were mentioned the most by people, but the UPS was mentioned quite a bit. A lot of people mentioned they've been happy with it and wouldn't change what they went with. The Vesta Fitness option, a lot of people mentioned they like the pulleys in combination with the Smith machine. Fringe Sport was mentioned for its value. Spud Inc. People are like, well, I wouldn't spend more than the Spud Inc. Bells of Steel was mentioned, and then the Voltras from Beyond Power were mentioned a few times as well. And personally, I think that's probably the future of this. You know, it might not be like next year or the year after, but in like 10 years, if you can get a Voltra, once the price of those start coming down, that might be the best option for a lot of people. If you can like hook it to your pulley systems, hook it to your Smith machine, those seem like they might be pretty popular in the future as well, if the price can come down.
Yeah, I'll just say from Home Gym Con, getting my hands on dialed motion setup, so smooth. Their stuff is, again, they have like that clever like look and feel to it. Very minimalist, very modern, and just like really well done. Yeah, I just put in my 2 cents right there.
Yeah, based on the comments, they were easily like if you're not going to go with the base unit setup, get the dialed motion one. So yeah, people are very impressed with them. And then we have some pulley data that I'm going to run through. So we asked which rack attached pulley system are you most likely to get? Kind of like an Aries style with the full combo, just a pull down / low row, just a functional trainer, or just the single stack. The Aries style was easily the top choice with 42% of the vote. Lat pull down / low row was 25% of the votes. Functional trainer like setup 24%, and then single stack like setup was just 10. And I'm going to run through these, and then if anything stands out to you, we'll talk about it at the end. Most do think that the weight stacks are typically worth the extra cost when adding to the rack. So 64% said yes to that question. They are worth it. 22% no, and then 14% said, I don't know. So about 3 times voted yes compared to no. I thought that was a little bit of a surprise because the stacks are quite a bit higher in price. Only about 24% said that they want to actually store dumbbells, kettlebells, etc. on their rack. I experimented with this uh, in my previous days, and I didn't love it either. It was just like you had to go through your rack to get the dumbbells or kettlebells, go out, and then it also tightened up everything. So it made, when you were lifting within the rack, it was tighter as opposed to kind of an open space. Um, 2 to 1 is the ideal functional trainer pulley ratio on a power rack for the majority. So we just kind of discussed this with the Dane released. So 51% voted 2 to 1, 36% voted 1 to 1, 1% voted 4 to 1, and then 12% said, I don't know. And then we also asked, just kind of curious, what standalone machine would you like to go with? Would you like to have most in your home gym? These were just pulley options, or machines with pulley. So either a functional trainer, lat pull down / low row, and then just a single column. Functional trainer eked out a victory with 46% of the votes versus about 45% of the votes for lat pull down and low row. And then a single column, only 9% said that they wanted that. But that might change with attachments like those from Porter Phys Ed. And then current power rack situation. So either you have a pulley system on your power rack, you don't have a pulley system on your power rack, but you want one. And then lastly, no pulley system and you do not want one. So only 19% have no pulley system on their power rack and do not want one. The most popular answer was, I have a pulley system on power rack, with 45%. And then also no pulley system, and then also 36% voted no pulley system, but I want one. And that was it for the data. Any of those stand out to you, Adam?
Yeah, a few of them. One that like went with the way that I personally thought, but I didn't think it would. That one was the shoot. Can you go back like 3? Yeah, that one, the storage system. I personally wouldn't want the storage on the back, but I kind of felt like more people would say yes, especially with Rep coming out with their like storage builders and stuff like that, including the Dane too, because you can connect like a kind of wall control system on there. I thought that's the way that like racks were going to include more storage, and I thought they were going that way because that's what majority would want. I personally used to have a pulley system on my rack. Now I don't. I kind of like a bare rack just to be the rack. That's it. And I don't like things attached to it. So this one surprised me in the way that it went with what I agreed with. And then the last one as well. Most people either have or want a pulley system on there. Like I said, I used to, and now I have standalone units, and I like that feel a little better than having like, I don't know, sometimes when my rack gets like overly filled, it feels cluttered and hard to use. But I understand it, especially with some of these rogue builds and rep builds. But those are the two that surprised me the most.
Yeah, I also voted. Well, I do have a pulley system on my power rack with the UPS, but I'd rather not. In a perfect world, and I think with the amount of space that I have, I'm moving towards not. But what was I gonna say? But I mean, I think most people are dealing with less space, so that's why they're voting the way they're voting. And then also just like the pulley systems on the power racks are really hot right now. Like,
Oh yeah,
that's the really hot product that everybody wants to show. And yeah, so I think that's also one of the reasons why the voting is the way it is. I was a little surprised that 42% want that like airy setup. I mean, it's an awesome setup, but I think in a perfect world, you know, you maybe have one or none because everything else is separate. But I do think, like I mentioned, I think it's because the amount of space is they're they're not like us where we've dedicated entire rooms to
Right.
our home gyms, you know. So a good portion amount of people are just dealing with less space than us. So yeah, I think in general, interesting data.